Canines are our passion. They are our addiction. They are our way of life, right down to the very core. And without them, we would be lost. The canines of this world really are something to behold. They assist us at work. They accompany us at home. And they perform for us in the field. No matter where we go, they are by our side. Canines really are a ride or die, and for that, we are grateful. This podcast will showcase working canines of various breeds and disciplines as we search for those canines and their handlers who are always striving to be the best at what they do. Those who are always grinding. Those who are always pushing the limits. Those who are always dogging. Join us on our adventures as it is sure to be a wild ride. I'm your host, Bryce Matthews.
And I'm your co-host, Stephen Basham.
And this is Semper Doggin. Welcome to another episode of the Semper Doggin podcast, guys. I am your host, Bryce Matthews, and today I am joined by a multitude of guys. We are doing a Semper Doggin first here. We have 5 people on one podcast. Now, this is not easy to do.
Yep.
So we are pumped that we got everybody's schedules lined up, ready to go. As always, we got Stephen Basham joining us on the co-host. How are you today, Mr. Basham?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself, bud?
Buddy, I can't complain. It's a little chilly. I guess that would be the only complaint if I had one. Just a little cold out. But we're making do with what we got.
You got all the farm animals put up?
Yeah, I mean, we got the barn opened up. I got the shelters built for all the goats. I got the calves where they need to be. Chickens are good to go. So just going out and busting a little bit of water a few times a day. But other than that, we're good. So everybody's thriving on that front. All right. I'm just going to go clockwise around the computer screen here. Next to Mr. Basham, we have the gentleman who is responsible for getting everybody together tonight. You guys have heard him once here on this podcast before, but we are glad to welcome back Mr. Brandon White with Next Level Premium Pet Food. How are you, brother?
Man, I am living the dream. Living the dream and glad to be here. See, giving me the round of applause. Yeah, no, it's been a great day. I woke up this morning at 5:30 Bryce's time in Detroit, Michigan, with about 3 inches of snow on the ground, and it's 15 degrees with 32-mile-an-hour winds. So I'm glad to say I'm back home in southwest Missouri, where it's in the 50s, and well, it was when I got here, but no snow. So,
man, we've been getting that wind the last few days. Man, that wind just won't stop. It's just roaring here.
I don't want to hear about wind until you come up here and live in the flattest ground you've ever seen. The wind doesn't stop. It never stops. That's my biggest complaint since I've lived here. The wind doesn't stop blowing.
Peru, Indiana is a lot like Oklahoma, where Mr. Eddie Green lives.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're gonna switch up the order then, because we've already talked about our next guest, Mr. Eddie Green, down in Oklahoma. Just come off a big weekend with his dog Zeek. Mr. Eddie, how are you?
Doing fine. How are you guys?
We are doing well and super glad to have you here. And we got your handler, Mr. Zach Boring, joining us. Mr. Zach, glad to have you on the Semper Doggin podcast.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Brandon, let's do a little history of you, Zach, Mr. Eddie. Let's go into the blue tick stuff. You're the gentleman responsible for this, so I'm gonna let you take the lead here. Tell us a little bit about the people who you've invited here onto the Semper Doggin podcast.
Man, I have been great friends with blessed to be great friends with Eddie and Zach for many, many years. I think the first time I met Eddie, correct me if I'm wrong, we drew each other in a hunt. And he was hunting a Walker dog.
Correct.
And I was hunting my old dog Ben. And Eddie and I, we didn't see quite eye to eye the very first time. We kind of got a little ugly. But we made it through it. And I think Eddie ended up whipping my ass that night, but he got it done. And we just kind of moved forward. And then his uncle Richard Green, some of the blue tick folks know him, just a super great guy. Through Richard and meeting Eddie, become friends. And then Eddie's got a son. Some of you folks may or may not know. And Eddie, I hope I'm not wrong for saying this, but his son Brandon, called him Moose, played football at the University of Oklahoma when they beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl in 2013. Become a great friend with Moose, and my youngest son, call him Little Moose because of that. Met Zach back in the day with blue ticks, and Zach had a blue tick that he got called Trashy, and there's a little story about Trashy that Zach got and showed him and whatnot. And Zach don't live too far from me, so we just become friends and met each other. And Zach's handled some dogs for me and showed some dogs and just kind of went from there. But that's kind of how I know these guys. But two great men and great dog men, great houndsmen, and they know what to do to win. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Eddie, why don't you tell us, it's kind of interesting here. Brandon said first time he met you, you were hunting a Walker dog, and now you're pushing this blue tick. How did you transition into the blue tick breed?
Well, I've always hunted blue ticks, but I had a Walker female that I called Martha, probably the first real coon dog I ever owned. And I don't even know what year that was, but I sold her at that time for what I thought was a ton of money. And I just told everyone I'll just replace her. Well, I probably haven't replaced her to this day, but my Uncle Richard's always hunted blue ticks, and I just always go back to hunting a blue dog if I can.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get away from what you started with, I think, like, the only reason I'm a Walker guy is that's the first dog that I ever had was a Walker, If it would have been a red bone, it'd probably been a red bone man. But Basham, we know we know he's a black and tan man at heart. He's a little bit of a leopard hound guy at heart. Basham likes that kind of stuff. So, Basham, you and Zach have a little bit of history. You said you've known Zach for a long time. Give us a little bit of background on that one.
Yeah, it just with his stepdad, Terry Bennett,
Yes.
So I used to hunt dogs for Darren and Terry back in the day, and so I've been over there a few times, and me and Zach have had our rounds, and definitely seen him come up in the coon hunting world since he was a young kid. So it's definitely a proud moment to just see everything that he's accomplished, and not just the coon hunting world, but his business side and stuff like that. So
yeah, Zach has come a long ways. I'm very proud of Zach and his coon hunt and handling abilities and professionally in his business in his family and personally. Zach is he's first class. He's done a great job.
Man, well, let's hear it from the man himself. Zach, we're glad you're here, buddy. And first off, we just want to congratulate you on your big win here this last weekend down in Missouri. Looked like you guys had a heck of a time over there. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. But why don't you give us a little bit of background here on who Zach Boring is, where you come from, and where you're headed?
Well, I'm not too far from Brandon, 25, Southwest Missouri. I've been coon hunting now for... I'll bet you I've been coon hunting now for about 15 years. We grew up in Texas and moved to Missouri, family farm, and ever since we've been up here, I've been coon hunting. I've known Brandon basically ever since I've been up here, really. He's helped me a long ways into this coon hunting stuff, helped me meet a lot of new people, and he just showed me a lot of pointers on a lot of stuff, same as Basham and Eddie also. I've known Eddie now for, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, and I've known Basham for, I've probably known Basham for 9-10 years now, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a rough road to hoe.
Here we go.
That'd be a good cast to be on right there, I promise you.
Well, you've had to put up with Basham, so you've come out the other side of that. It has to make you a better person knowing him for that long and still being able to do what you do. You just learned a lot of hard lessons that way and what not to do whenever you hang out with Basham. You know what I mean?
That's why he's hunting a blue dog now.
That's right.
I give Basham a hard time, but honestly, he has helped me a lot with dog knowledge and everything. He knows what it takes to win with a dog. He knows how to make a dog. Steven's helped me a lot in this coon hunting stuff.
Yeah, he's an all right guy to have in your corner. He's an all right guy. Well, Zach, okay, so I don't know anything about you, Zach. This is the first time you and I have talked, and that is what I love about this podcast is getting to meet new people, getting to hear new stories. Give me the background. Like, when did you said you've been hunting for 14 years now. Like, how did you get into the coon hunting, and when did you start taking the competition world seriously?
So when we moved up here, we built a house. It was down in the woods and everything, and some neighbors actually were hunting, got on our property, and Dad grew up here. So they called Dad, said, "Hey, we're coon hunting. Dogs got over there. Do you care if we go get them?" Dad said, "No, go ahead and go get them." And he looked at me and said, "You want to go down there?" Because I mean, we grew up in Texas, so I had no idea what coon hunting was, where we were living at, just a little suburb of Dallas. I was like, "Sure, I'll go down there." Went down there and they had a coon treat. And well, the next day I asked my buddy, I said, "Hey, you care if I start going with you a little bit?" He said, "Yeah, that's fine." I started pleasure hunting with them for a little bit. I probably pleasure hunted with them for, I'd say, a year, 2 years. And then I started going to a few local events and stuff around the house. And then I'd say I was probably 17, 18, and I started hitting the competition hunts pretty hard. I was going to CHKC World Hunt. I was going to Battle Breeze. I met Brandon down there at Battle Breeze a few times. I was starting to run up and down the road pretty hard then.
Yeah, man, that's always a fun time. Like, I wish I would have got into it seriously about that age. I didn't get into hunting until I was 20. So I'm right at 10 years now doing the coon hunting thing, but probably didn't get serious into the competition until I was like 23, 24. Man, if I'd have been 18 when I got into it, oh, Lord, it could have been bad. It could have been out of control.
Well, I think for somebody, even Brandon can attest, and Mr. Ed can too, is coming from my perspective. I've got two guys here that I knew at very, very young age in the coon hunting world. With Zach and Bryce both, and being able to, kind of help mentor them, seeing where Bryce has come, and all of his success and everything that he's won, and Zach the same way. It's. You look back on your coon hunting career, and a lot of guys look at what they've won, and for the most part, that's some of the highest moments that they have. But I think some of my highest moments were seeing some of these young guys that I've helped, teach and mentor, and what they win. I feel like when they win, I win. And so that's pretty neat coming from my side of it.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Brandon, so you said Zach used to like show some dogs for you and stuff. Is that how you guys got hooked up with, was through the blue tick breed?
Yeah, I just met Zach through showing dogs, and he was just a little podunk kid. I'm like, here he is, we're looking for a dog, and I have my dogs go back to the old Rambo blood, and through Amy, Amy, and then Whitney Kilo, and there was a puppy called Trashy, and Zach somehow ended up with this dog called Trashy, and the story was that the female that had to have C-section, and that this pup was dead, and the vet thought the puppy was dead, but it was not, and they'd already thrown the dog in the trash, so they called the dog named Trashy.
Oh wow!
Well, Zach got the dog, and the dog started. Yeah, so the dog started winning some men shows, and Zach had it, and that's kind of how we met. And Zach, he just wanted to win. He wanted to compete and wanted to win, wanted to show something, wanted to do something with coonhounds. He was a coonhound guy, and we just go back. Zach, didn't you work for a while at a 4th of July or a firecracker place over there around Seymour? What was that place?
Yep. Dynamite Fireworks.
Yeah, Dynamite Fireworks, and so I went over there and talked to Zach. I've always peddling a little dog food and pushing some to him, and then I bought a dog during COVID. I bought a little female that probably should have hunted a few more times before I bought her, but I bought her and bought her, and nothing else to do during COVID. Right, the world was shut down, so I bought the female, and I said, "Man, I want Zach to hunt this female because she's a dynamite." Well, she was a dynamite on the first 1 or 2 coons, but after that, she's gonna go tree on anything she can find. Give her a telephone pole, she's gonna lock up on it, and so it didn't quite work, but no, Zach knows what a coon dog is, and Zach is a competitor, and I think that's why Eddie and Zach kind of hooked up. Eddie calls Zach son from time to time, and Eddie and I we're up there in age, and we don't want to go climb and fight all that trees and fences and stuff. So you need guys like Zach that can get out there and can hustle, and that's what they did with this dog Zeek. Eddie, how long have you had Zeek?
I've had him 4 years.
4 years.
He was just turning 2 when I got him.
Yeah, and that dog's come a long ways, and that's just a natural fit with Zach and Zeke. You know, the two Z's go after it and
Yep.
go out and win 20 grand. That's an accomplishment, no matter
So
what color the dog is. But
So he's a little bit older of a dog. How old is he?
He's 6.
6 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basham, if you would have done a little math there, 2 plus 4 is 6. Just so you know, a little bit of math. Just saying.
hey, he's from Kentucky, man. Don't hold that against him.
Just saying.
Right.
Sorry, Mr. Eddie.
Well, there's
I got to
kind
get
of a
my
story
digs when
about
I can.
Yeah. Cheyenne Cummings, you guys have all heard of him.
Oh, yeah.
He was telling me about a blue dog that Ronnie Smith had just purchased from Illinois. He said, you need to get hold of Ronnie and buy this dog. And I happened to be staying at a casino there by Ronnie's house, guiding the cast out for a big hunt at downstream. And I went over to Ronnie's house the next morning, looked at him, and I said this on the podcast the other day, and I know people probably don't believe me, but about halfway that kennel, I looked at that dog. I said, I'm going to buy that dog. And you guys haven't seen me. He's a good looking dog, big dog, dark. And anyhow, Ronnie Smith had him, and he came out of the house, and we got talking, and I ended up buying the dog from him. He just had him about 2 weeks. He bought him from a young boy in Illinois.
Yeah, Cheyenne's top notch. Been around him quite a bit at, different hunts and stuff like that, and he's definitely a top notch guy.
Yeah, you can't find anyone to say a bad word about Cheyenne Cummings.
No. So here you bought Zeke, and did you bring him home with the thoughts that you're going to just pleasure hunt him, or did you already know you were going to start pushing him in the hunts, and how did that come about?
Well, I didn't know much about the dog. Ronnie had him for 2 weeks, and he put him in one cast. Didn't pleasure hunt him any, and he said he got beat by 25. The dog treated him, but I think he got third strike or something. But I brought him home, and the first night I hunted him, he went in there 400 yards and got treed on a den tree. And I walked 30 yards and recast the dog, and he wouldn't. He looked at me. I walked in there 30 yards, and he looked at me, and I thought, Lord. So I just walked off and left him. I thought, well, he's going to go hunting. He followed me all the way back to the truck, and this went on for about 2 months. And I called that kid who owned him, an 14-year-old kid, and I said, what can you tell me about recasting this dog? And he said, Mr. Green, he said, what are you talking about recast? And I told him, I've never recast that dog. He trees a coon, we go the truck. So it took me for a while to get him over that. And one night I was hunting, and I walked back the truck. Of course, he followed me the truck, and I moved my truck 10 feet. I laid him out of the box, and he shot in there and got treed. I did it 2 or 3 more times throughout the next week, and I'm talking just starting my truck and backing it up, and he'd leave. But it took me forever to get him to recast, and you can recast him now anywhere. But he was a long ways from being ready for the hunts when I got him.
So here we have a dog that you bought, thinking that he was going to be ready to go to the hunts, or that it was something that you wanted. And it took a little bit of time. It took a little bit of patience, especially since you're hunting a blue dog. It took a little bit of patience to get him ready, to go to these hunts.
Yeah. Well, and anyone can tell you patience is one thing I don't have with a dog, but there's just something about this dog that I really liked. And he for pleasure, and I love to pleasure hunt. I like the competition hunt too, but my main deal is I like to go out and pleasure hunt by myself and see what I can get out of a dog. And you never put a lead on the dog pleasure hunt. I don't care where he's at. I don't care if he's treed across the river at the Litter Kings. He's coming to you. He's just a pleasure to hunt. And I just kept putting the boot leather into him, and he turned out to be a pretty nice hound.
Good deal. Good. Now, so when did you and Zach end up coming together on this dog, and how did you know Zach from before, or how did that happen?
Yeah, I met Zach. He doesn't remember. I met Zach when he was a little boy. He turned in a scholarship application to our BBCHA organization, and I met him at a hunt, talked to him. He was selling equipment for someone, but we really, we got serious. about him hunting a Walker dog of mine, basically, and he took him over and he didn't work out, and I do, it's hard to explain, but I just don't trust sending this dog with anybody, and then I trust back with my life. But he called me and he said, "Hey, let's split this entry at this $2,500 hunt." And I said, "Well, I can't go. It's on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday." And he said, "Well, I'm gonna hunt him," and that's how it kind of started up, and he can take him anywhere he wants to go.
No. Good deal,
man.
Good deal.
That's awesome. It's to think, and I got two things here. Number one, I want to go back a minute here. When Cheyenne called you and said, "Hey, there's a dog you need to go look at," and then you went and looked at the dog, and he wasn't exactly what you were thinking. Like, how did this dog get turned on to his radar and your radar? Saying that he just come from a kid. Like, what are the odds that a dog that is this caliber now was turned onto the radar back then? If that makes any sense.
Well, Ronnie Smith actually bought the dog from that young boy in Illinois, and he lived by Ronnie's brother-in-law. And Ronnie bought him, and as you all know, Ronnie Smith's a full-blooded Walker dog guy, and he bought the dog, and I'm sure he bought him to sell, off his looks, his mouth, his handle. And, when I go over to Ronnie, watch this, he opened up the kennel door, and he ran about 40 yards and jumped on Donnie's tailgate and got the dog box. And he just said, "There's something I like this dog," and I'm sure he's like all of us. He bought him trying to make $1.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And of course, Cheyenne lives by Ronnie, and they're partners on the Stogie dog, things like that. So he knew about him, and Cheyenne knows I like blue ticks. And
Gotcha.
Well,
That makes more sense.
If you go back and you think about some of the big name dogs in the coon hunting world, some of your best dogs and your biggest winning dogs were dogs that were given up on at one time. And two that come to mind real quick is Mr. Clean. So I was in the Marine Corps out at Camp Lejeune, and no joke, Mr. Clean, the year that he won the world the first time, he was in North Carolina. He was on the UK. This is back when the UKC boards used to be a big deal. He was on the UKC board for $1,800. He went and doubled up at the zones, and then he couldn't be bought from then on. Another one, if you talk to Bill Stokes, Wild Bill, he was a big coyote dog when he was younger, and he didn't really turn on until he was probably like 2.5 years old. And so a lot of the dogs, a lot of your big winners, at an early age, somebody's given up on them, and it's just taking that right pairing, that right dog man to be able to get the most out of them.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, and well, I just think talking about the right dog man, and that's where I think Eddie's got it, from his Uncle Richard. And those of you who don't know Uncle Richard, haven't been blessed with meeting him, he's a dog man. And talk about patience, man. That guy's got so much patience. But I'd like to know two things. I'd like to know the pedigree of Zeek, and then I'd like to talk about this $20,000 hunt. I don't think we've ever really mentioned yet.
Not yet.
The hunt that he won, and so maybe Eddie and Zeke or Zach, if you could tell us, tell us about Zeke's pedigree, and then tell us about the hunt, up there in La Plata, Missouri, that you won, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, talk about giving up on dogs. I want to touch on that real quick. I bought that dog at a real good price, and these guys know the story, and everyone does. But
would you take your money back today?
Huh?
Would you take your money back today?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just get that out there.
But I had started about 1.5 years ago on trying to buy this dog, and he offered me a very large sum of money for him, and I said no. And he called back, went up 5,000. No, went up 5,000. This goes on for a month and a half, and I finally caved, and I sold the dog for a large sum of money. The guy calls me about a week or two later and says, "Hey, this deal's not going to work. This dog's not performing." And I said, "Deal's off. Bring him back." He said, "Mr. Eddie, no one will do that." And I said, "I will." I didn't want to sell the dog to begin with. I gave him his money back, and I got the dog back. I took him to the vet, and he was full of Orlichia, which I thank God every day I got him back. And as Brandon said, now I say that someone's going to call me tomorrow, but money can't buy the dog. I mean, he's not for sale, or someone's going to have to get real stupid to buy him. But the dog's, he's out of a dog called Lonesome 2 that John Stieber owned. And
Okay.
which we all know John Stieber about his Lonesome dogs. And
Nice blue dogs.
yeah, which Lonesome 2 is Hammer and Jet bred. And he's out of a female on the bottom side called Blue Willow, and she goes back to Smoky River's Blue Chief, which is one of the best reproducers ever in the blue tick world. He's bred good. He's not. I mean, he's like all of them. There's great dogs in his pedigrees, and there's just decent dogs in his pedigree. But we all get wrapped up on what they out of, and all that. And I'll tell you, Mr. Stevers you talk about putting the time and effort into making the breed better. He's done it. And I think last year on the PKC top 16 in the breed, 4 or 5 dogs too.
That's
now,
pretty impressive.
real quick, Mr. Eddie, do you know, did John own Zeke when he was a young dog?
He sold him as a puppy to this 14-year-old boy, 8-week-old puppy.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
He had another one. I thought, now that you started talking about it, he had another one. A buddy of mine, Dale Shad, right here by where I lived at, hunted a young dog for John. And for some reason, I thought his name was Zeke, but he had him up until he was probably 15, 16 months old. So
yeah, I went up last winter and hunted over Christmas break with Dale and John. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. See, I've known Dale since I was 5 or 6 years old. I mean, Dale used to carry me on his back through the winters, through the snows, through the creeks. Mr. Dale Shad and me go way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach, let's get into this $20,000 win this weekend over at La Plata, Missouri. And Mr. Eddie said earlier that you called him and said, "Hey, let's split this entry. Let's go to this hunt." Were you interested in this hunt because it was close to home? It was in Missouri. Was it something that was on your radar for several months? Like let's walk through the very beginning whenever you decide to go to this hunt, and then take us through your weekend over there in Missouri.
There's very few people that. I mean, everybody knows coon hunters, and they can fib a little bit and lie, stretch truth, stuff like that. But there's very few people, when they say something, I mean, you can take it to the bank. Eddie's one of them.
Amen.
And so when Eddie's telling me he's got the dog power, I'm listening to him. And I've hunted Zeke before. I had Zeke at the house probably 2-3 years ago. And I told Eddie back then, the dog was going to make a nice dog. I had him. I think I got him when Eddie just got the dog. He didn't have him very long, and I was down there at his house for a different hunt. I was hunting his Walker dog. I said, "Hey, there's this $2,500 hunt. Let's go to it." He said, "I just don't know about it." I said, "I'll split the entry with you." I mean, the Zeke dog is he's one that you can count on. He's going to give you a shot at it for sure. And I told him, I said, "I'll split the entry with you if you want to go." He said, yeah, if you want to do that, we'll go up there. I said, sweet. And I was actually, you guys, I was talking to my wife about 3-4 days before the hunt. I said, man, I almost called Eddie and said, I don't know if I want to go right now. And luckily we did, and it turned out good for us. Won $20,000 out of the deal. But the Zeke dog, he's gonna give you a shot at it. It was a good hunt to go to. I was glad we went.
Yeah, well, let's walk us through it. Like, what night did you get in? Because you had multiple nights to have a chance to get in. What night did you get in? How'd your cast look?
So it was a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night to qualify. Wednesday night we go up there, first night of it, and the dog looked good. We treated a few coons, but it was just a rough night hunting. Anybody knows North Missouri's cold already. It was cold, about 30, 40 mile an hour winds. It was bad. It was rough hunting. And I got beat early, so I didn't even get a shot, hunt late. And Thursday night, kind of the same deal. It was a real cold night. It was, I think it was 12, 13 degrees that night. And Zeke didn't look the best, but he didn't look the worst either. he can tree a lot of coons real fast, and he can be a blue tick too. I mean, he can take old track, work it up, and it may take him a minute, but he'll tree it. And that's what he did early Thursday night. He treed one coon, and that's what won us the cast, and that's what got us to a late round. Then late round, he looked real good. He treed 3 coons by himself, stayed in one patch of timber, hunted out. I mean, I think Josh Michaelis, he was our late round judge. And me and Josh were talking. I don't think Zeke got more than 500-600 yards from the first tree he made, and just treed 3 coons out of there and just stayed in the same patch. And I mean, looked good on it. I was glad to get in Thursday, give him a little bit of a break Friday night, rest up and everything. And then Saturday, I'm going into this hunt. This is the biggest mount I've hunted for. I've got some dogs in at some hunts before, but to be in the top 12 of a $20,000 hunt, I'm one cast win away. I'm sweating bullets a little bit because, I mean, you go to these hunts, you're not drawing Joe Blow.
Right.
You got Burns. I mean, Robert Burns. You got some big name dogs here and handlers.
$20,000. That's a lot.
Yeah. And but I'm pretty confident in the dog. Like I said, I mean, the Zeek dog. He's when he trees, he's the type he's gonna make you use the whole shine time. I mean, he's usually pretty accurate. Got coons. If he's slick, I mean, it's as bad as slick as you can get. It'll be a telephone pole slick.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going into this cast and shooting. He started out looking a little rough early. Saturday night, he backed on a coon out of the truck. I was like, shoot, this ain't like him. But I mean, they're all dogs. Then he went on and treed 2 coons by himself. And he trees a coon, gets he was probably 500-600 off that first coon he treed. We recut him. He gets in there about half a mile. I was like, sweet. I'm feeling pretty good because I drew Jack Bingham, Robert Byrne, and Mike Fields Saturday. And Jack and Robert, they both take a little bit of minus right out of the truck. Jack actually trees no slick. So he withdraws. He's, I think, 450 minus. I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit better about myself. Zeke's treat a coon now. So I've got Mike Fields beat by a quarter at the moment. Robert Burns, he's still in the minus. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And then Zeke kind of blows the country a little bit. They get treat again. I was like, shoot. We got hour and 20. Hour and 15 left probably. And there's still a lot of time left to hunt in this hunt. When they go and handle their dogs, and I go and handle Zeke, they come popping over this hill, and I'm expecting to see 3 lights. Robert Burns, Mike Fields, and Josh Michaelis. Well, I only see 2 lights. I was like, shoot, that's making me feel a little bit better. I go up there to Josh. I said, well, what was it, slick or what? Mike, he peeps up. He said, it was slick. If you got a coon, I'm withdrawing and you win. I said, shoot, there's 42 minutes left, but that put Mike at, he's in negative now. He's 200, I think, minus. I'm sitting at 450 plus if I've got a coon here. Okay. We go shine, and I see my coon within a matter of seconds. Josh and Mike, they both congratulate me. So, boys, I guess I've never seen it, but that's a $20,000 coon sitting up there in that tree. I mean, I couldn't ask the dog look better. It was a blessing for sure.
So what was the feeling looking up there, knowing this is the biggest hunt you've ever hunted in, and seeing that coon? Which, I mean, we won't incriminate you here on the Semper Doggin podcast, but we all knew that coon was there before they got there. But
yes, yeah. So if you went back through my text messages with my wife, she's probably got a 10-paragraph text message from me saying, I think I've just won $20,000. but there's a lot of time left in this hunt.
So
My redneck would want to mount that $20,000 coon. So it's just that's just how I am. Hunt's over. Okay, good. Boom. I don't want to mount that.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Brandon.
now,
Yeah.
with the 20,000 was split for the final 3. Was there an option to hunt it off, and everybody decided to split, or was it a mandatory split? I wasn't sure on the rules.
No, it was an option. We could have hunted off. The Bear Creek, though, the payout, it was kind of, in my opinion, a little bit dumb to hunt it off because it went from 25, because it was a final 3, so you had your top 12. It went from 25,000 to first, 20,000 to second, and 15,000 to third.
Yeah.
So Chad Dunn, he got in, and he was pretty. We were all pretty open. Nobody really just peeped up, said they wanted to hunt it off. Jason Daugherty and Zach Burden, they got in. I text Jason, so you guys want to hunt it off, or you guys want to split it? He said, "Man, I'm 8 hours from the house. I'd like to head home. But I got to talk to Zach." Well, he talked to Zach Burden. He said, "We can split that sucker." Shoot, yeah, let's take the 20,000 and head to the house.
That's
Jason,
right.
he was 8 hours and I was 4 hours, and said I'll be home before daylight with 20,000 in my pocket.
Man,
Yeah.
like, what's the feeling like that? You've worked hard, and I want to get to Mr. Eddie after this too, so don't interrupt me here, Basham. But what's the feeling like that? You just won that kind of money. You're going home, and you're like, you're on cloud 9. You're driving home. Like, what are we jamming to on the radio? Going home at 2 in the morning with 20 G's in our pocket.
Man, I was speechless. You can ask Eddie. I was just all over that phone call. I couldn't believe myself. And
he was jamming a Kid Rock.
I've got to give Eddie credit. I mean, I don't, with my work, I don't hardly have time to pleasure hunt. Eddie's done all the training on this dog and made the dog what he is. I was just able to get the opportunity to take him up there, and I'm glad he let me do it. But, I mean, I don't think Eddie believed me when I called him.
Yeah, that's what I want to know, Mr. Eddie, is like, what's going through your head as an owner? And Brandon, we'll get right back to you here, but what's going through your head as an owner? You've got a hired gun out here. You've got somebody else with your pride and joy, the dog of your dreams, and then and everything rides in their hands. Like, what's going through your head?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like Brandon said earlier. I still love to go to competition hunts, and I'm as competitive as anyone in the world. But, as I get older, you draw 24-year-old, 25-year-old, it's easier to send him to someone else. But I'd like to have been there, but man, I'll tell you, I'm tickled to death. Zach stepped up and took him, and he called me. I don't know. I'm going to say it was 7:40. I was pleasure hunting, and I didn't even want to answer the phone. It was early. I thought, oh man, something's happened, and I was afraid Zach was going to mess with me anyhow and text me or call me and say, well, we got beat and we won it. But anyhow, he said, Pops, he said, we're $20,000 richer. And I just sat down and tailgated my side by side. I was about to pass out.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah. Brandon, what do you got to add to that, buddy?
I don't even remember what I wanted to add to it, but talking about competitive, Eddie, we haven't talked about Eddie. Eddie is retired and still doing high school. He's a teacher, coach high school football, and his son, I've talked about earlier, played football and played at University of Oklahoma. So he's competitive, very competitive. And we do have our limits, but I watched that hunt going on, and I was, in touch with Zach and Eddie, and when they won it, 20 grand, man, that is huge. 20 grand. And then also to be a blue tick. Lord have mercy. I have 25 acres with a blue tick, and I hunted all night long with my blue tick. So to go do that with the blue tick, that's huge, and just very blessed that I hate you, kind of a shameless plug here, but I got Eddie talked into feeding next level dog food, and that he's feeding the food, and it worked great for him. But Eddie's worked his butt off for several years, and Eddie he pounds it out. One time, Eddie, I think I went hunting over there in Kansas, and wasn't there an ammo dump or an ammo thing or something over where we used to live? And
Army ammunition.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to really be on it, but we kind of ended up on it.
Yeah.
Eddie hunts. Eddie's a hunter. 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week. He's gonna hunt, and Zach same way gonna hunt. And I'm just I feel blessed to have Eddie and Zach as friends. Number one, and then to uh, have those guys trust me enough to feed our dog food. Number two, but even if they didn't, we're always going to be friends. Number one, but those guys, man, they're houndsmen. They're going to go pound it out. They're going to grind it out, and to win 20 grand for a blue tick breed, which I'm a blue tick guy, man, that's awesome. Hats off to those guys. It's perfect.
Definitely. What you got, Mr. Eddie?
Well, I want to add something when Brandon's talking about that feed. I've known Brandon for a long time, and there used to be a feed that they called native, and on that, Brandon was pushing the native feed, and at that time it was $40 a bag. Well, there was no way any of us houndsmen was going to pay $40 a bag for native dog food, and he could not get us convinced, to try it. And I've stuck with him, and every single time I've had a dog food question, I call Brandon. And I had Zeek on a feed that he wasn't doing great on. He was getting real hot on. And asked Brandon, I said, what do I need to feed this dog? And I truly believe Brandon would, if it's some other brand, he would have told me somewhere, Brandon. And he told me about this feed that Next Level made. And I am sold 100%. It's the best feed I've ever put in a hound.
So which blend are you feeding? Which blend are you feeding?
That Hero Salute.
Yep.
Gotcha.
It's a fish base, and I think it's just I could go on and on and on, and it's a deal. You just have to try to believe it, But he's just been so good to us on the feed, and Brand knows I fed other brands of feed he wasn't pushing at the time. We were still friends, and that's that's what makes it so good. But
I think that feed, that blend is really raised to the top, Brandon, for you guys. Obviously coming from that side of it, the business side of it, I believe you're getting a very well received from all of the dog men and dog women out there on that blend, right?
Yes, it is. It's the formula that we all feed. In the company, we all feed Hero Salute, and there's a little bit something about the Hero Salute. It was made Scott and Antoine, the owners. And Scott is very patriotic, but he wanted to do something a little different, right? Let's do something for the heroes. The Hero Salute. What can we do for that? So for every bag that we sell, $2 of that goes to an organization called Tunnels to Towers. If you don't know what that is, I suggest you look it up. But let's just say that Bryce, you are a first responder there in Peru, or a National Guard, something, whatever. You're a first responder, police officer, National Guard, and something happened to you and you passed away tomorrow, they would go pay off your wife's mortgage. Or let's say Shane was become a homeless veteran. He's a veteran. Let's say he became homeless, wandering around the streets of Kentucky. They would go put him up in a hotel, and they would pay for that. So how do they fund that? They fund that from donations, and we are so happy to be a part of that organization. So every bag of Heroes that we sell, $2 go towards that organization. And which that's just a side note. For us hounds guys, that product is amazing. It's a 26 protein, 18 fat, 850 milligrams of glucosamine for hips and joint. It just hits all the buttons. But when Eddie called me and goes, man, the food I'm feeding is just not working. What do you recommend? I said, man, this is what I'm trying with my old dog Spot. With Spot, we all know Spot. He's not a coon hound. I mean, he's a coon hound, but he won at Orlando and New York. He's not a coon dog, coon hunter. He don't go hunt. And I said, man, but it really works for me. He's 16 years old, and he gets along good. He looks good. And so Eddie tried it, and Eddie's like, man, this stuff works. And I'm like, okay, well, here's a free hat. But he's like, no, it really works. And couldn't be prouder to be a part of the $20,000 hunt. I mean, lucky for us, right? So
Yeah, no,
works really well.
That's awesome. And I can attest to it too. And this isn't a next level podcast, because if you guys want to hear more about it, you can go back to our episode that we did with Brandon. But this is just a happy customer talking to, I can attest to what Mr. Eddie and what Brandon are saying, is that the next level feed is what I've got wheels on. And I'm feeding the high energy 2420 because I tried the Hero Salute. Wheels he will not eat anything with fish in it. Whatever it is. I've tried a couple different blends of feed. He will not eat fish. So the 2420 is where I've landed with him. And man, Basham, and people who've listened to this podcast for a long time, they know the struggle that I went through with Wheels, trying to get that dog to eat food. There was a period of time where Nikki cooked for him every night because he would not eat dog food. He wouldn't touch it. It didn't matter what you threw at him. He was looking poor. And now we found out part of that was a health issue. He had some ulcers and stuff in his stomach and in his esophagus. We got that taken care of. But even once that was taken care of, finding a dog food he would eat was like pulling teeth, until we found this high energy 2420 next level feed. And I put that food in the bowl now. And I mean, he is knocking you out of the way to get into that stuff. He looks good. He's filled out. He's only a 49-pound dog. He's a small frame. But man, he looks filled out. He looks good. His energy level is crazy right now. I almost wish he didn't have as much right now, because if I don't hunt him for 2 or 3 nights, he's driving me crazy. But I'm a very satisfied customer. Nikki actually just last week, Brandon, she put both of her big show dogs on the next level. So we've got 4 dogs in the kennel that we're being fed the next level. Those are the 4 that we're hunting. I got 2 that I'm hunting and 2 that we're pushing to show. So those jobs that have jobs and are actively competing now, we're on the next level train right now, and hopefully we'll be making some noise.
Hey, that is a success. Get those Elburn girls on a dog food. You're doing something, but that's a feat. What do you got to say, Zach?
I was going to say, when he was talking about picky eaters, that almost sounded like Duke Basham. I remember when I was on the road with Duke, I'd message Basham.
That's more my fault.
Me and Terry bought a dog off of Basham, and his name was Stylish Duke. We did a lot of winning with, and Steven did a lot of winning with him also. But that sucker, I could not get him to eat on the road. I just started texting Basham. I was like, what do I need to do to this sucker? He was a pig.
Feed him Big Macs.
It was
cheeseburgers and chicken tenders.
Yeah. Hey, everybody knows that I've sold a couple different dog foods in the world, and I've been blessed to be a part of Scott and Glover and Antoine Alvin. Those guys are geniuses in pet nutrition, but they're just rednecks like the 5 of us, right? And but man, it doesn't always work for everybody and for every dog. I remember being at a CHKC World Hunt there in Lamington Lakes with a guy, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he's like, my dog won't eat. So we stopped at a convenience store, and he just bought some canned dog food, just like tuna or whatever, and the dog ate it. He's like, I just need the dog to eat. So dogs are like humans. We're all different. It does not always work for everybody, but most of the time it will. But
yeah.
Anyways, fun times and fun groups, and couldn't be happier to be a part of it. So
yeah. Absolutely. Well, we appreciate, Brandon, you setting this up. Zach, Eddie, I know you guys have been busy after your win. You guys have done a couple other podcasts too. So we appreciate you taking time to join us here on Semper Doggin. One thing that we do want to do here, though, is we want to give away a bag of Hero Salute here to one of you listeners. And I personally did not mention this at the beginning of the podcast because I want people to listen to this stuff. So, all right, I'm going to let Brandon choose the question. Okay. Brandon's going to choose the question. And whoever is the first person to email the correct answer to semperdoggin@gmail.com is going to get a free bag of Next Level Hero Salute, and Brandon's going to toss in a hat with it. So,
yep, we're going to toss in a hat and a T-shirt with a free bag of dog food. So, I have one question: who is Mr. Eddie's uncle that is the foundation of Eddie's hunting in the blue tick breed? Who is Eddie's uncle?
All right, there you go. You guys have it. That is the question to receive a one bag of Hero Salute. Basham, what do you got, buddy?
Speaking on that, something, and it's kind of the foundation, and if you've listened to this podcast, it's something that me and Bryce really hang our hat on, and something that I think in the future we're really going to push even more. We got Mr. Eddie on here today, and one of the biggest things that I like doing is telling the stories that are not told, getting them recorded. I tell Bryce all the time, people's kind of heard my story as far as my dad, and I haven't done it, and I keep kicking myself in the butt, but I need to get over there one day and just get some of his stories down recorded so that I have them, for the future. And so, Mr. Eddie, if you would just grace us with a good story, either from when you were a kid or whenever, your uncle and how he inspired you, just give us a good story to kind of end this podcast with.
Well, man, I don't start on stories. I tell stories all day long, but in the greatest thing for me about coon hunting, and my Uncle Richard, as Brandon can attest, he's my hero. He's just like the dog food. I salute him with everything, but he just going to hunts with him, and we can drive. I don't care if it's Batesville, Mississippi, or Peru, Indiana, or where it might be. He tells coon hunting stories the whole way and rattles pedigrees off the whole way and the whole way home. And he's the first one that waiting on me when I get back in, sitting over there sipping a cup of coffee. And I'm telling you, the knowledge that man has in the blue tick world is unbelievable. You could write a book on it. And, I think one of the biggest things that hurts the blue tick guys is we don't listen to enough of those guys. We want to do it our way. And he's never told me how to handle a dog, and he's never told me how to train a dog, but he has told me in his way. And I listen to everything he says. And, it's kind of like you said, Stephen, I need to sit down and record the stories. But I love pleasure hunting with him. And, I hope I can continue to get plenty more hunts in with him. He's turned, I believe he's 80 now. He's slowed down some. He still coon hunts, but not like he used to. But I could tell coon hunting stories.
Well, let's get a good story, a good story of you and him coon hunting.
Tell us one, Eddie.
Well, not so much coon hunt, but we were going to hunt blue tick days in Michigan one year, and I just bought a brand new truck, and it's an 05 Nissan Titan, and it had the Armin in it. And I always take Uncle Richard out in a little town called Chautauqua, Kansas, and we no more get going down the road, and he flips that Atlas open. And I mean, we could be 10 miles from town, he's got the Atlas looking for our exit, And about day 2 into this trip, he said, Eddie, I hate to ask you this, but he said, is that the same gal that was talking to you yesterday on your radio? I had my Garmin on, and he couldn't believe it was the same lady giving me directions. But I mean, Uncle just got his cell phone a year or 2 ago. But anyhow, I'll never forget him saying, "Is that the same lady who just talked to you yesterday on the directions?"
Oh boy!
Oh,
that's a good one.
That's Uncle Richard.
Yeah,
that is a good one.
He's just as calming as they get, and I just hope one day I can fill half of his boots.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Me too.
We'll get together with you, and maybe me and Bryce and Brandon can take a trip out there, and we can sit down with Mr. Awesome. Richard, and we can get some of these stories recorded.
I'm telling you, it'd be a blessing for you. These You can't find a man in the United States of America say a bad word about Richard Green.
No. Not gonna happen.
You got, Zach?
Just don't get lost, because I remember last time he showed up in Missouri, Basham, and I spent 30 minutes on the four-wheeler trying to find you. Don't get lost.
Hey, that's that Kentucky math, man.
Yeah, they didn't give directions. They did a pin drop. And this was back when Samsung and iPhone first started doing the pin drop stuff. And I think they had a Samsung and I had an iPhone, and they did the old pin drop. And at that time, I didn't know anything about electronics. So here I am trying to figure it out. And I'm going around the hillside trying to find them. And yeah, it was a crapshoot.
Don't make me sound like I'm old. I'm not very old. I'm not like you guys.
Now Zach just a baby, but hey, just kind of wrap it up. If we could ever get a a trip out with you guys, come out here to God's country, where Zach, Eddie, and I live, and go on a little hunt with Uncle Richard, and maybe even throw in a couple of old legends like Dennis Albreder or Jim Combs. Man, that would be an amazing hunt and a podcast. You talk about three legends: Jim Combs, Dennis Albreder, and Uncle Richard. Lord have mercy. That'd be a great time, and I'm all in. And I'll pay for every bit of it. Just let me know.
All right, guys. Well,
There
we
you
sure.
go.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Eddie. Go ahead.
No, I said, there you go.
Yep.
Let us know.
It's cheeseburgers and biscuits and gravy, Eddie. Come on.
Yeah.
Bingo.
That's good.
I'm in.
You know I'm not picky.
I'm in.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this has been super fun. Once again, we appreciate everybody tuning in here to the Semper Doggin podcast. You know, we have never had this many people on one before, and I think it was a lot of fun to get this many perspectives on different stories, the hunts. We appreciate Mr. Eddie telling us a good story there. Zach, congratulations once again, man, for your big win out there in Missouri this last weekend. Brandon, thanks for getting everybody together here. You've been a good friend of mine, and you've helped us out a lot here, with Froggy Bottom Outdoors and pushing this feed. You got Mr. Eddie straightened out on feed. You've got Wheels straightened out on feed. We appreciate, what you do just from a friend standpoint, not just from a business standpoint. Everybody has had a chance now about 20 times to hear the correct answer for the free bag of dog food since we announced it. If you guys don't get this, then we're never going to be able to help you. So first person to email semperdoggin@gmail.com the correct answer to who was Mr. Eddie Green's uncle, you're going to get a free hat, a free t-shirt, and a free bag of Hero Salute. So guys, with that, we appreciate you guys joining us. Gentlemen, thanks again for having us, or for letting us have you on our podcast. Basham, are you good? You got anything else you want to close us out with?
Hey, I just want to say a big thank you to Brandon. I mean, he's kind of helped us, promoted us. I mean, every time we turn around, he's jumping on there. I remember a few months ago, the Virginia State Youth Hunt was looking for somebody to help with some prizes, and all I did was tag Mr. Brandon, and next thing I know, I see the big flyer that said Virginia State Youth Hunt sponsored by Next Level. And so I can't even begin to tell Brandon how much it means to the coon hunters, to the people out there, to see Next Level putting interest back into the coonhound world, and how much we appreciate it, how much me and Bryce appreciate his friendship here on Semper Doggin podcast, and going forward.
Yep. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, kind of going off of what Basham said. I mean, I 100% agree with everything that he said. I mean, Brandon's been a stand-up guy. He's helped me with a lot of different deals, and when he told me about this Next Level food, I mean, my dogs are looking better than they ever have. Brandon's been the type of guy, if he tells me something, I mean, he's going to shoot me straight on it. He's helped me out since day one when he didn't know me, and he's helped me out now since I've known him for 10 plus years. He's been a stand-up guy on everything that he's done.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, like I said, appreciate you guys for tuning in here to Semper Doggin Podcast. We've kept you late enough tonight. Everybody's got to work in the morning except for Basham. That guy doesn't work. So get you to do whatever.
I work every night. While y'all are sleeping,
hey,
I'm out there trouncing
work
around.
in the corners don't count, okay? That don't count.
Easy. Hey, guys, make sure you join us Tuesday for the next episode of Semper Doggin for Doggin Tuesday. So make sure you join us next Tuesday for Doggin Tuesday.
Yep, that's over on the Facebook group. So, all right, guys, I'm done rambling. I'm signing off here. We'll see you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take it easy.